and the goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple feelings, and boom, you got a song.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, the romantic and powerful vocals of jazz singer Corinne Mammana. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Philip Reese.
Hello, and I am your co-host, David Moore.
And this is
your next favorite band.
Yes, it is. It sure is, David. How are you? How are you doing? Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. I am doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great. Actually, a very interesting, something we should be proud of, David. Last week, I got multiple posts out there. Thursday night was a friend of mine who lives in Dallas who was taking his daughter to the Arcadian Wild concert.
Hey, look at that.
Friday night, my friend who lives in Charlotte took his wife and other concert-going couples to the Carver Commodore show in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Saturday night, friends of mine from this area all went down to Milk Boy Philly and saw Mariel Craft.
Wow.
All three of which they all said, obviously would not have known of that band or gone to it were it not for our show.
Wow. I'm now waiting for the brought to you by sponsorship that we can add to all of these things.
You know what? It's nice to be beholden to no one, that we can do whatever we want. But you know what? Maybe being beholden for some dollars wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, I mean, brought to you by, like, we're the sponsor, but, I mean, I'm not opposed to being also brought to you by, like, I don't know, Fruit Loops. I don't know.
Milk Boy Philly. I just thought that was cool. And none of them I really knew about. They were telling me either on the way there or afterwards, sent me pictures during. And I was like, wow. So, again, it was just time. Like, each one of them was like, on top of the next one, I just was thinking one of them would have been nice. And then it was 3 straight days in a row. It was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
And all of them, as you would expect, said that the shows were amazing. So, I mean, we've obviously seen all 3 of them and are highly impressed with them. So not a shocker for us, but at the same point, it's good to see them out there and getting. Mariel's show down in Milk Boy was sold out.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I know it was a reschedule, so that's really great that managed to work out that way, because that sometimes can get kind of weird when it comes to, like, by the way, it was November. Oops, not anymore.
Right. And she released some new music, I think, on Friday. So, great ride that she's on. And Carver, they are, this portion of their tour is them, but they just announced other stuff for the months coming up where they're actually, the supporting act or the opening act, whatever you want to call it. So they're kind of getting some good cred out there as well. And Arcadian Wild is already huge. And with their new music coming out, I'm very excited for as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
For sure. And like we said, it is Valentine's Day, so we thought it was perfect to bring on a good, again, romantic sounding, jazzy kind of artist for this episode. And we are very excited to bring you Corinne Mammana. So we're going to play some of her music here, a song that she wrote. So this is an original for her called This and That. And then David will bring on the bio and we'll bring her on the show. So here's some Corinne Mammana.
If I wrote you a song tonight, it would go like this. And then
Praised by JazzTimes for superb technique and all about jazz for her sheer genius arrangements, American jazz singer, songwriter, arranger, recording artist, and bandleader Corinne Mammana is passionate about preserving the music of the past while placing her own personal spin on the American Songbook, as well as popular tunes from the past few decades. With creative arrangements sung in a sophisticated and soothing style, fans have described Mammana's voice as a cross between Norah Jones, Julie London, and Stacey Kent. She's released 3 albums: Under an August Moon, 2016, an EP, Yes, No, Next, which this track is from, in 2020, and In the Christmas City, a holiday album released in 2022, all of which received international praise. Mammana's Christmas EP ranked in the top 200 Jazz Week chart and received airplay on SiriusXM's Real Jazz Holiday. Originally from suburbia Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Mammana holds a Bachelor of Music degree from James Madison University, where she was classically trained in voice. She performed in professional theaters for many years before discovering her passion for jazz music.
Let's bring this up a little bit more and welcome to the show, Corinne Mammana. So this is an original for you, which I think is obviously super cool. I think some people have like a tendency to think about jazz as being like only the songbook, the originals. But this is excellent. Like this is the kind of stuff that I would totally want to have on, especially on Valentine's Day.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't say hi there. I didn't see myself on the screen, but thanks for having me. This is a song I actually wrote. It's a love song to myself.
Nice. Self-care. It's important even on
care. You got it. Some people don't have enough self-love. Some probably have too much.
Maybe too much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to be kind to myself, especially being in the music business. So.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we are super honored to have you on today and can't wait to kind of dive in. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And as we usually do, we always like to kind of roll it back to the beginning and just kind of hear a little bit of your story arc. And from what I was able to kind of find, it sounded like you've been singing since a kid, like just in your basement, putting on shows for your family and that kind of stuff. So you come by it, honestly, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know where you found that information, but you're correct. I did start performing, like putting little shows on with my sister and the neighborhood kids. Like we would put on shows in the basement, and I always just knew I wanted to be a singer in some capacity. So yeah, that's where it started. And
I feel like this is your life moment where we're like, and now the 8mm film that your parents submitted to us that we can roll
Here's your
out.
second grade teacher that gave you a D, you know. But the any particular inspiration there, or was it just being able to perform? Like any artists or musicians or anything like that kind of had you wanting to emulate?
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Probably pop singers and country singers from the 90s. Really into Alanis Morissette. Memorized all of her lyrics from Jagged Little Pill and Madonna. So not jazz at all. Shania Twain, Jewel. I loved her songwriting style. And then later, just musical theater artists like Sutton Foster, tried to emulate their sound. And Yeah, so things like that.
Yeah, and then when you get into high school, you do a lot of musical theater, which that makes sense with what you were just saying there.
Yes,
Yeah.
lots of musical theater.
And again, just that performance, singing, whatever goes from the basement to the high school stage.
I mean, you had to shift from the hairbrush microphone to actual microphones at that point in time.
Yes,
right.
And the one on the face.
Right. Yeah. The infamous what looks like a wire. You could either perform musicals or give a TED talk with that thing, that everyone seems to have.
Yeah, or like the commercial where it was like, "Hi, I'm Betty, someone from the Disney Channel or whatever." Like, where it's like the collecting either like sponsorships or memberships or whatever.
Yeah.
those good old headsets, but yeah. And then David mentioned this in the opening there. You end up studying voice at James Madison. Yeah.
JMU.
Yeah.
But that must have been like equally, obviously rigorous, but also very important in your progress of becoming the singer you are.
Yeah, it was equal parts classical singing with musical theater. So yeah, and acting classes, dance, and then the core music classes. So music theory and ear training and music history, all that stuff. Yeah.
And I was amazed too, like when you look at the reviews that you get from, we haven't gotten to the transition to jazz music yet, but the critics all just rave about, the not only just the quality of your voice, but just how well executed you are and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's amazing. Obviously, there's some of that's just pure talent, and then there's stuff where obviously that training was what kind of got you there to be able to deliver on such a high level.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely helps keep everything healthy when I'm singing live. So,
anything there at college that was, again, like a particular teacher or a particular moment where you knew this was going to become a profession for you?
I kind of decided, when I became a music major, like that's what I wanted to do. I didn't go into education, even though I do teach now. I love it. I always, going into college, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But it was musical theater for me at first. I thought that was going to be my track. And it was for a while. And yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And then, so you're obviously everyone has that decision to make where you're graduating and where you're going to start your life, especially with singing. You would think it was possible to be either New York City or LA or, something like that. But you ended up coming back to the Philadelphia area. So, like, is there anything there? And then ultimately, what brings you to Bethlehem through those journeys?
Yeah, so I was working at Busch Gardens, the theme park in Williamsburg, Virginia. And
they do put on some really nice shows. It's pretty amazing.
Very famous musicians have come out of working there. So it has an odd sort of legacy to that.
Yeah. Jeremy Jordan. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah, so is Victor Wooten. So him and his brothers used to play there.
That's funny, huh? Yeah, so I was working there, and I wanted to make the transition into doing regional theater, and so I got an internship at a theater outside of Philadelphia, Media Theater, and I started working there. And I think I was there for one season, and then what was the next thing that happened? Oh, I met my husband. And so he's originally from the Lehigh Valley, and we decided that we would move up here, and it was a good transition for me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with doing theater. I just wanted to sing, and I didn't know in what capacity that would be. So yeah, I was invited to sing a couple standards at Lafayette Jazz Bar in Houston. Yeah. A lot of good people come through there. So I was invited to sing two standards with an already established band. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this whole thing, singing in front of a band and doing these older style songs. And from there, I just kind of made a decision, like, I'm going to focus on this now. And I haven't stopped since.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, I was going to bring that up because it's incredible to think about that you're this very synonymous to jazz music now, but it kind of only kicked in. It seemed like about 10 years ago, maybe 11, where that happened, where you were invited to do that and kind of never looked back.
Yeah, about 10 years. You're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what's incredible too. Like even, just either as a performer or whatever, like it's never too late to find what that path is, because now this is something that just kind of set ablaze for you, where you've got these, this great following and these great, whether it's an EP or a full length or even the Christmas album, like all this great jazz music that's coming out, and you're performing pretty regularly, around here or and again, even regionally. So yeah, I just think kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So within that, if you don't mind, me didn't always know, like a standard is like, it's more than just like, sometimes when I heard it, I was just like, oh, it's a standard, like as in like the very basic word, but it actually has a more defined term for jazz music. If you don't mind, maybe kind of getting into some of that.
Yeah. So the Great American Songbook is this like ever evolving collection of songs that were written all the way back from the 20s, like think Duke Ellington. And, if you think of songs that Frank Sinatra sang and Ella Fitzgerald, those are all from the Great American Songbook, Louis Armstrong. And yeah, it's just this collection of standards that jazz musicians, most of the instrumentalists have them like memorized. The best ones, they can just whip it out and they know how to play it. So yeah, it's a standard song. An A section, a B section, back to the A.
Right.
Aren't a lot of bridges. So if you think of like pop music of today, the actual form of the song is much more simplified with standards, I'd say. But the actual chords themselves are not simple. They are they can be very complicated. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. No, like sometimes I would just hear those terms thrown out and they'd be like, oh, it's a standard. I'm like, well, of course it is. And I'm like, oh, no. It's like literally a defined term in the industry. So like I was not aware of it. And I figured we'd take a moment to kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
And then you have to pick which ones you want to do. So like you have 2016 EP, Under an August Moon is the first thing that you record and release. And you obviously had to pick standards, and then also, you're also writing your own stuff too. Do you keep those separate, or like, are you gonna? Because I know on again the full length you had the one song that we played here at the Open.
Yeah.
But are you ever going to release like an album of full originals and keep it separate from the standards, or is it always this kind of like
maybe
mix and match?
So yeah, I have several. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm pretty new to songwriting. This and That was probably the first song I really wrote. And I was like, all right, we're going to do this. So, yeah, I have more in the pipeline. But the idea is that these songs they could be next to a standard that I record, and they would sound like they belong together in a set or a show or a CD. Yeah.
Right. They have the same sort of form and things that follow the standards, the songbook songs that we were just talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I have some that, they might sound a little more modern. But I think, again, they could still stand side by side with a standard.
Yeah, and then this is something else I kind of wanted to highlight. So if you go see a Corinne Mammana show, one thing we always want to do on this show is kind of explode the whole genre thing, because some people just have it stuck in their head that they don't like jazz music or bluegrass or whatever. It has nothing to do with any one particular genre. And we're kind of saying, ignore the words and just listen to the people who are excellent at music. And it doesn't matter what genre it is, you're going to like it. Right. And so let's just say somebody's like, well, I'm not too into the standards. And it's, well, a show that you put on, not only are you going to have some of your originals, but you do, sometimes you even refer to it kind of as a new standard, where it's a more current song that you do in a jazz style. And then you do a whole kind of litany of Disney music in this style as well. So if you go to a show, you're kind of treated to not only introductions to those standards, but also music that you already know, but in this style. And it's so much fun. Like, I just think it's great
Thank you.
when you sprinkle that stuff in there.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to trick people into coming out to see a jazz show, like putting a theme to it, like Disney. I had somebody say to me, because I put the Christmas album out, and a fan said, I don't like jazz. The only reason I came out to see your concert is because I thought it was, a Christmas concert. There aren't many like that.
Right.
Yeah, he's now a fan and will come out to see jazz.
Yeah, and I think that's very true of a lot of people, is they have it in their head of what they think it is, and it just isn't that. Or maybe it was a certain style. Okay, you don't have to like every type, but an excellent performer is worth seeing and checking out, and will potentially change your ears forever.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, one of the hard parts with the word jazz too is it's such a broad. It's like saying rock. It's like saying folk. It's like this giant, broad thing.
Right.
That there's obviously different takes or eras or whatever, and you're a jazz vocalist, so you end up with vocal jazz versus, say, you mentioned instrumentalists earlier, where you end up with people thinking of like these long Miles Davis freeform kind of thing, which some people really dig. That's cool, but that's just one piece of the pie, and that's where Phil's point about the just take your eraser on your pencil and erase the genre word from in front of it and just listen to it for a moment and then enjoy it. It's sometimes that simple.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, what are we having for dinner? Chicken. Oh, I don't like chicken. Well, it could be like, like you talked about, like the phrase is so broad and wide that it's like,
it's almost broader than that. It's like meat at that point in time. I mean, it's, or vegetable, I mean, it literally is that kind of broadness. I mean, it is, a lot of people think of jazz too is the American classical music, because it is birthed in the United States. It has this rich history. It's our true contribution, along with some other things, but the biggest contribution as far as like a whole defining genre that's come out of the Americas. And it's remarkable on all of the different little pieces that live within that.
Completely agree.
I agree.
And I believe one of the ways that you funded the Yes No Next album was that you took requests where someone could ask you to turn a song into that style, and you would do it for a fee. But it was fun because then that was a show at Godfrey Daniels where not only did they get a recording of it, but some of them you chose to perform in front of the crowd. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it was really fun to do. Yeah, it was. I did a crowdfunding campaign, and that was one of the perks you could choose. Was you would pick a song for me to cover, and then I took it another step and said, I'll perform it live at this show. You have to come.
Yeah. I think it's what this recording is, and you and I have talked over the years that just me being a fan of the style of music that I would that I would choose to put on are these more like alternative rock 90s type songs. And when you do some of those in that style, I find it so entertaining. I just think it's great to listen to all these different types of songs. Like I remember when David and I were there for this show at the Hotel Bethlehem, you actually sang Nine Inch Nails and Tool and all those types of songs in that style. And I thought it was so much fun. And that night you had some too, where again, it was choices of different people. And I was sitting there going, I wish I had known about that, because but then I was like, I don't know how I would pick one. I was like, I don't know what song I would settle on. But if you're still doing that, I would certainly sign up for picking it. I would somehow narrow it down to one song to recommend.
Well, you can always request a song, and
I'm intrigued what the most offbeat one you got that maybe you couldn't do. I don't know. Somebody's recommend. There is no limits. I'm intrigued by any of these requests that were like a hard stop, or not a hard stop, but were super exciting that you didn't anticipate. Like, oh wow, I'm a huge fan of this insert Metallica song here, and it could happen. But just as an idea, that to me is always so intriguing.
Yeah, I had a ABBA request, Waterloo, which was pretty random, and
that's amazing. I was not expecting to hear ABBA as the one that was hard to figure out. I actually have. It's only 30 seconds, because it was before the show ever existed. I was just I was so amazed at "Sober" by Tool in this style that I was just like, I got to capture some of this. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play a little bit of this. Well, I'll play the 30 seconds of it just so people can get a flavor for what we're talking about here.
We love you so just stop this. Why we dream forever? Just
I sent that to like my college buddies, and I was like, "You got to check this out."
Yeah, that was fun.
But maybe I was gonna let this play underneath while we still chat. But we'll kick it off a little bit here. When you did the Godfrey Daniels show, I think this is from that same night. This one is "Love Song" by The Cure, which I also thought would just be perfect for Valentine's Day. But again, in this very style, bossa nova. I'm guessing. I don't know. You can help me out there. But
You're
here
correct.
is. Oh, nailed it! Nice.
Good
Who
job.
had that on the bingo card?
Yeah. But here's a little bit of that, and like I said, we'll take the volume down, but we'll let it keep playing for us.
Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am whole again. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am young again. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am young again. Whenever I'm alone with you.
And always happy to feature the Godfrey Daniels stages we have in the past.
Yeah.
Great space there, especially for this style of music.
Oh, it translates beautifully in that space.
It sure does. I figured you might want to take a moment. A lot of times this is the people you're performing with. So if you want to take a moment maybe to talk about some of the other band members, or maybe who's not here, but who you often perform with. Anybody else who you want to
in that video on piano, that's Sean Goff. He recorded on my 2020 album. Actually, all these guys did. This was our album preview concert from January 2020. That's Gene Perla on bass.
Right. Pretty significant player.
Very significant. Yeah. He's played with Frank Sinatra, Nina Simone, Sonny Rollins, pretty much everybody.
You may have heard of some of those people.
I've heard of them. He's a great mentor. I mean, when I play with him, I'm just like, all right, don't mess up.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Don't suck.
Don't suck.
Yeah.
And then that's Ian Froman on drums, and he's just he's played with so many people. He teaches at Berkeley College of Music. He's been featured in Modern Drummer. He's a Juno Award winner.
Wow.
Canadian Grammy.
Yeah, so I was very, very fortunate to have them play on my album. So, yeah.
And you were right too about like tricking people. Like the way this opened, you never knew it was going to be a Cure song. And it was just, I just love this stuff where you kind of deconstruct and reconstruct a song in its own, in your style.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
My favorite thing to do.
Yeah. I think it lends itself to the idea of the strength of a song versus the strength of a recording. I think that's where jazz particularly shows that, where it shows the strength of a song versus like the infamous, you think of how the Cure recording sounds versus just like taking all of the melody and the lyrical content and then the chord structure and you're doing maybe inversions or replacements, the thing that's famous in jazz where you can do all sorts of fun stuff with that kind of stuff. Like this is re-rhythmed, like it's all done in a bossa nova arrangement. It's just such a coolest part about a lot of jazz where people seem to miss that, where it's like, oh, look at this. Wait, this is all of the bones were all turned into this. Like, it's really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it. It's...
Are you in the process of deconstructing anything right now, or?
I'm in the process of deciding what I'm going to deconstruct. So, yes.
And then we'll get to this in a little bit, but obviously the upcoming schedule of shows and then festivals in the summer and stuff. There's a lot of that probably booking for you right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm working on lining things up for the year. Always a continuing process. I do it all myself. Booking agent, manager, life of an independent artist. Promoter. Yeah.
Social media expert.
Yeah. So yeah, Music Fest should be in there. Hopefully other jazz festivals and jazz clubs. That's what I try to focus on, those type of venues. Yeah.
Certainly. And then I did hear you might be able to perform for us today and sing a day appropriate song.
I might be able to, yes, on this Valentine's Day. Yes. Have you heard of the song My Funny Valentine?
Sure have. Seems like a perfect one.
Do you know what it's from?
Oh, that's a good question. And I probably... Originally. As soon as you say, I'm probably going to have my brain go, that was it.
It's a Broadway show, I'm sensing.
Do you know who wrote it?
No.
Inklings. Okay. So it was written by Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart. So Richard Rodgers wrote music for like The Sound of Music, things that people might know about.
Right.
For a musical called Babes in Arms.
Oh, I would have not gotten that right. I had I was placing that in the wrong place.
I almost guessed Rodgers and Hammerstein, but
but you would have been
half right.
Hammerstein is his first writing partner, correct? If I've got my era right.
Probably. Actually, I think Lorenz Hart was before Oscar Hammerstein.
Okay.
Yeah, he was before him.
Okay.
Because this is a really early song.
It would have only been just because you guessed that crew and you would have been probably 40% accurate on any what song is this written by. So it just would have been a more logical guess rather than an actual understanding or knowing who it was. But so continue to intro the song. We're going to give you center stage. We'll come off and then we will bask in the glory of your beautiful vocals.
I'm going to have a drink of water.
Go right ahead. Yeah.
So Valentine, part of the title of the song, is actually a character from the musical. So the character who sings this song is singing to the man named Valentine. I thought that was interesting. Here's My Funny Valentine. My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? But don't you change a hair for me. Not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine. This Valentine's Day. My funny Valentine. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
That was
Thank
lovely.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Terrific. And again, so great for Valentine's Day. Lucky for us to have you here for this. So yes, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. One thing we wanted to do here at the close is talk about what's coming up. So I'm going to bring up your website, and you can kind of talk through, and promote whatever. Like, so if it's the site, the social media, or what have you, we'll bring up CorinneMusic.com. And
David Moore.
Look at that.
I don't know that guy.
Is the man behind the website. Actually, am I allowed to say that? Years ago, he put this together for me.
Yeah, he does our site, and then he does Corinne's site, and available for others. Sure, right, David?
Well, I'm expensive now, like millions of dollars expensive.
That's right.
Don't give me any more gigs.
Yeah, right. But here's the live shows we've got coming up. February 23rd, Hotel Bethlehem, and then so on down the line from there. Looks like a nice slate of stuff through like one a month at least here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, booking all the way out to July at this point in time.
That's right. Yeah, June, July.
Yeah, if you want like a true jazz club experience, Sunday, February 26th, it's called Shanghai Jazz Club. It's one of the top 100 jazz clubs in the world, rated by Downbeat magazine. And it's right in Madison, New Jersey, near Morristown area. And they have, besides great music, they have amazing Asian food. Their fried rice is like, you just have to go and have
I like the combination, the name and the jazz, like that all comes together right there.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So I highly recommend that. And yeah, if you're local to the Lehigh Valley, Hotel Bethlehem.
Yeah, those are always great shows too. Yeah.
March 23rd, April 20th. Yeah, and I'm sure lots of other fun things in the summer.
Yeah, you said you often play Music Fest, which you usually they have the jazz performers sing in the cinemas, right?
Yep, the Frank Benko Cinema. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then also on Main Street outside the Hotel Bethlehem, they added that plot.
Yep,
that's right.
That's where I saw you last year, as a matter of fact.
That one's a lot of fun. It's just, I feel like people who haven't seen me all year, that's the show that they go to.
Right. And then here's some of your music that's on your site, and maybe give people some of this. You get 5 free songs. It's a way to kind of capture some of your music.
Yeah. Get 5 free songs. Yeah, you'll sign up for my email list, and you'll get 5 free tracks. So my most recent album here, 2022, In the Christmas City, it's a 5-track combination of Christmas classics in, there it is. Carol of the Bells, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, In the Bleak Midwinter, Christmas Time is Here, from Charlie Brown Christmas, and then my original, In the Christmas City.
Yeah, that's right. It's another original number right there. And it's a great song. Obviously, it's about Bethlehem, which is super cool for us. And if you want to see a live performance of it, if you go back to our Winter Wonder Jam, you actually performed 3 songs live that night.
I did. Yeah, I did 3-track.
And one of them was that In the Christmas City. And the Charlie Brown one, which was I actually asked you to play that one because I love that one.
That's a favorite. It is a favorite song.
This is a great video, by the way. The version of Music of the Night from Phantom Opera is a very well produced video.
Thank you. Yeah, that was done right actually on the property where I recorded my album.
Neat.
In Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania, the Red Rock Recording Studio. The owner also has a wedding venue on site, and beautiful property. And I was like, hey, can I use your property for my music video? And he said, sure. So it was fun.
Very cool. Well, Corinne, thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Valentine's Day to you and your husband. And
Happy Valentine's Day to you, hearts.
and thank you for sharing your story and your talent today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Corinne.
All right.
David.
Phillip.
What a great person to have on for Valentine's Day. Super romantic vocals and, great story. And people need to open their minds if they're not into jazz. And if they are, then they definitely need to be checking out Corinne.
I think they should explore new music all the time. And, that's part of what we're trying to do here. And she's a perfect example of that. It is somewhere for you to start thinking about jazz, particularly vocal jazz.
Yep.
As you mentioned, you can find songs that you probably are familiar with and some that you aren't. And that's part of the exploration process. And she's a great example of a good place to sort of find your next favorite band.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We'd like to sincerely thank Corinne Mammana for sharing their story and the way they came through performing in their basement as a kid and all through high school, college, and then now finding jazz music 10 years ago and really just absolutely crushing vocals and bringing it to everybody, both with standards, new standards, Disney music, and even Christmas music. It's just such a great thing to kind of perceive. There'll be links in the show notes to her website, Spotify channel, Bandcamp, all that good stuff. She also does vocal lessons. That's out there too. If it's somebody who is local here who would like to check in on that, that's available as well. As always, our hope here is to bring you your next favorite band. But if you happen to already know Corinne and her music, we thank you so much for tuning in. And we just ask that if you enjoyed things, maybe like and subscribe, and encourage you to check out either our past episodes or tune in every Tuesday night here on the live stream at 6:30 Eastern, or our podcast that's out there that comes out every Thursday. Got some really great guests coming up, and we are fully booked through April and into May. So a lot of great stuff coming on. And if anybody wants to come on the show, sponsor the show, or what have you, hope to see you at a live show soon.